She is a rising star in the literary genre of young adult. Her name is Jackson Pearce, and she's joining us outside the book from the 2012 Southern Kentucky Festival of Books. Jackson, first of all, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
You have a new book coming out. It's called Purity,
I do.
but you write for young adults, which
hmm
I would think would be a difficult place for some. Obviously, you've been quite successful with it. Why young adult?
Um, Honestly, people ask why I write for young adults as if it's a intended thing. Like I sat down and I was like, I'm
Ah.
going to eat a sandwich and then I'm going to write books for teens. But it's actually not intended at all. I just write stories and they happen to be for teenagers. And it's something I love to do. I think part of it is because there's something so fundamentally universal about the teenage experience. I don't necessarily have a lot in common with the adult experience, maybe yet, maybe ever, I don't know. But this coming of age idea and sort of experiencing all these emotions for the first time and becoming yourself is something everybody has experienced. And I think that's why it appeals to me so much.
Okay, I get that. You don't
Yeah.
sit down and say you're going to do this, but you also speak through a particular voice, and
Mhm.
this voice is of a young adult.
Yeah.
So where does that come from?
I think that's just my voice. I don't think I've never intentionally thought of that voice.
Huh.
I've never thought I should really say that a different way because a teen wouldn't say it that way. It's just how I write. It's just the way I tell stories. And I think most authors that there's a natural voice that comes with it because otherwise it sounds fake. So I think we all have sort of our thing, and that's mine.
That's beautiful. So
Yeah.
this came out, and then did you think once it was written, you went to a publisher and they said, yeah, this is definitely going to appeal to a young adult audience? Were
No,
you
I definitely
surprised, or
knew
you knew?
it was teen. And what's funny is when I was in college, I had all of these friends writing the next great American, adult novel and everything. And for a long time, I was actually kind of embarrassed that I wrote teen books because everybody else was, I'm a poet, I'm a grand novelist, and I'm writing about the American experience. And I was like, I'm writing a book about a teenager who falls in love. And I took this adolescent literature course, and this wonderful professor named Michael Riley, and he completely changed my perspective on it. And he was talking to me about Catcher in the Rye and Huckleberry Finn and all of these amazing classics that are teen stories. And I realized I had nothing to be ashamed of, and I just embraced it and ran with it. So.
That voice, um, a lot of people looking in at that would say, things have changed so much. Young adults are not who they used to be. Fundamentally, still the
I think
same.
they're all the same. I think that no matter when you're growing up and who you are and even what part of the world you're in, that young adult experience and coming of age and learning who you are as an individual, not who you are as a daughter or a son or a sibling or a student, learning who you are as a person is everybody does it. Everyone does it. So.
Do you know who you are as a person?
No, I'm still working on it. Do you have any ideas?
No, but I think it's an
Okay.
evolutionary process.
I would totally agree. I would definitely
Yes.
agree. And that's part of the reason I think that young adult books, now that adults have sort of opened up to the idea of reading them, we are always rediscovering who we are as people. And that's why I think they appeal to adult readers, to teen readers, to all readers, really.
Now, the new book, Purity, you says is a little controversial because
It
it's about
is.
virginity and the desire to lose one's virginity, or
Well, Purity is about a girl who she makes these promises to her mother, and it's the last thing her mother ever says to her. Is I want you to live without restraint, to love as much as possible, and to listen to your father. And then her father wants her to sign up for this purity ball, this princess ball, where she's going to have to vow her virginity to him until she's married. And she feels like she can't possibly keep the promise to listen to her father and the promise to live without restraint if she vows her virginity because she didn't want to get married young, but she didn't want to necessarily wait till she was 35 either to have her first time. And so she decides the only way out of this is to lose her virginity before the ball, is to exploit a loophole. And so it's a story about her trying to lose her virginity in order to keep her promises to her mother. But it's also a story about God. It's also a story about loss. It's a funny story. It's a story about friendship and love, and I'm really very proud of it. And I hope people love it.
now the fact that you have an audience of young adults in particular.
Yeah.
Your audience is growing in diversity, but are you afraid that there won't be a day when there's a hard, soft book in
Yeah,
front of
it's an
them?
interesting question. I think that I am, but I also recognize that part of the reason I want the actual physical book is a sense of nostalgia. I grew up with books, and to me, that is what literature is. It connects me to this grounded, real item. Um, but I also recognize, like, I don't need CDs. I don't have CDs. I don't have tapes. I don't have a single CD. All I have is files. And I realize for some people that's very strange. but it's not for me because that's fine with me. I just don't need the actual physical thing, and I think one day that will be the way books are. I think there will always be books available. I think that bookstores might start carrying fewer. They already have. I think that they might go down in popularity, but I mean, if I wanted a record, I could still get a record. I think you will always be able to get the physical book. It will just be a little bit trickier, and that doesn't necessarily bother me. I recognize that as things progress, people will change. I will always want the hardback, personally, but that's just me.
And so Purity comes out. You've got several other books. What's ahead? What's down the
Well,
road?
Purity actually comes out on April 24th, so very, very soon. And then in September, I have the third book in my fairy tale retelling series. It's called Fathomless. It comes out September 4th, I believe. So,
And do you hope? I mean, do most authors these days hope that one day they'll make this great movie about their books?
well, the nice thing about a movie is no matter how good or bad a job they do on the movie, it's pretty much a 2-hour advertisement for your book. So you really can't go wrong, even if it's bad. So I do hope it becomes a movie. I would love to see it become a wonderful, great movie that everybody loves. I would also just love to see it become a movie, to be entirely honest.
Thank you
So,
for sharing your story.
absolutely.
Jackson Pearce has joined us from outside the book.